Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Gerard Sanz, and I'm a developer advocate for AWS Amplify. And I'm gonna just start this reactive online meetup. And what I want to do first is I want to welcome our attendees. So, hello, everyone. It seems that they are going to be joining us as we go ahead. So one thing that I want to do is I want to go through the different people from the community that is joining us, and then they will have some time to introduce themselves and what have been they up to during COVID-19 outbreak. And it's been a hard time for everyone, and we as a community of developers, we have done different things, and it's exciting to know what the different communities have been doing during this time. And we will get to know one. We can see here introducing each one. I can see the chat. Let me see if I get this. All right. Yeah, of course. Welcome everybody from Budapest and all over the world. I mean, it's exciting, isn't it? We have communities from many different places like the Philippines, Norway, Israel, Poland, just to name some, Holland, Belgium, Russia, and even Spain, which is awesome. So I'm going to give way to these talks, but today we are going to focus on our main talk. And our main talk is going to be from Uri Goldshtein, and you probably know about him. He loves GraphQL as many other people in the community, including myself. And he's going to be talking about the GraphQL Mesh. I mean, this sounds like quite a cool topic. So I'm going to leave to him to get more details about that when he starts. And one thing I want to do is I want to give pass to Samantha that will start with the community line-in talks. So Samantha, if you want to take over.
Hello.
Hi, Samantha.
Hello. Yeah. Hello. So I'm Sam from Manila, Philippines. So I don't really have that much slides for today, but yeah, I just want you all to, I just want to thank you all for inviting us over. So yeah, I just want to talk about Manila CSS, which is a CSS community here in Manila that me and my colleague founded. So yeah, basically it's just, the usual community for CSS, and where we talk about CSS, we gather professionals and amateurs, and yeah, basically we just chill together, talk about CSS, and network. So because of COVID-19, we haven't been doing personal meetups. So right now, I'm still in the process of organizing an online meetup. So hopefully, you guys can also attend that when that comes out. So yeah, yeah, not much from our end, except let's enjoy this night, and yeah, hope you all have a good time.
Awesome. We have also Maxim Salnikov next. Oh, Maxim
Hello,
is
folks.
here.
Yes, yes,
Hey.
yes. So, hello from Norway, from northern part of Norway where I'm now. Maxim Salnikov, my name is. I work for Microsoft in the developer relations, and I'm a big fan of the developer communities. So I just want to spend 1 minute to share the story about how we organized the largest ever Angular conference on the planet online this May during the middle of COVID. So me from Angular Oslo Meetup and my soulmates from correspondent meetups in Denmark, Finland, and Sweden, we gathered all together and just did it. So after all, we got more than 3,500 of the registrations, 2 days of great technical sessions, purely community driven, not for profit. So we made it. It was who was NG Vikings. So I just want to say that when we gather all together as a developer community, awesome things can happen. So I hope this will inspire you. And yeah, that's all from me. Thank you for giving me opportunity to say hi to such a beautiful crowd and great initiative with Reactive Meetups.
Sure, you are more than welcome. And thank you for all your work. That's really awesome, Maxim. We are going to pass to the next guest, which is Noor.
Hi there. How you doing? Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you.
So first of all, thank you for Reactive for inviting me. If you haven't been to their amazing conference, Reactive Conf, it's truly one of the best conferences out there, at least from what I saw. So thank you for letting me be a part of this. So I'm Noor Harel. I lead this brand called Event Handler, which does community-oriented tech events. We run several conferences around the world, mostly Israel and New York. In Israel, we have React Next conference. Well, React Next is the annual Israeli conference for the React and React Native community. Our meetup community of React and React Native has about over 5,000 developers. And we switched over to virtual meetups, which is an awesome way to keep the community together and share knowledge. And we take like requests of what you want to talk about, and also opens the door for international experts such as Uri, who doesn't usually here in Israel. So it's a really great opportunity to combine like international speakers. And around COVID, what we did was also we arranged JS VidCon, which was in early May, and it was maybe still the largest JavaScript online conference. We had about 90 speakers in 4 tracks, which was Angular, React, Vue, and Node.js. And we had about 7,500 attendees who were watching either live or recordings after. So it was really awesome. And something I wanted to share with you is that one of the things we do is we're consultants for community, and I wanted to offer all the tech communities out there during COVID, free consultation for everything related, online meetups and tools that you can use to keep your community alive. So again, it's like free consultation for all the tech communities out there, because we gotta, stick together and help each other during this tough time. So feel free to reach out to me on Twitter or email or whatever, and I'll be more than happy to help you guys. And let's get through this pandemic together as a global community. And thank you again for having me. That's it.
Okay, so thanks, Noor. So next we have Adam Romanski from Poland.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great.
Hi, Adam.
Hi. Thank you so much for the invitation. I still consider Reactive Conf as the best conference I've been so far. So this online meeting reminds me of all beautiful people I've met there. So thank you so much. Just to introduce myself, my name is Adam Romanski, but everybody calls me Roman. That's why I've created Hello Roman YouTube channel, where I gathered a lovely and engaged community of 40,000 developers in Poland. Unfortunately, all my videos are in Polish, so I cannot invite you unless you speak Polish. But I'm trying to help others to gain new skills and maybe discover some new technologies throughout my videos and courses. So that's what I do. And speaking of people, I just want to make a very brief speech about people, because I think that very often aspiring developers concentrate on the technical skills too much, and they forget that the technical skills are only the half of the success, and the other half is the people. And no matter where you are or when you are, you don't know if you will not meet your future employer in a moment. So it's always a good it's always a good idea to make a good impression and to make new friends and to not be shy of meeting new people, because very often the other people are just as shy as we are. So just be brave and reach out, because great things can happen. And during the coronavirus in Poland, we observed that sometimes for one job offer, there's like 400 applications. So getting a job is not only about being the best now, it's also about being lucky. And surrounding yourself with people from IT business might just help that luck a little bit. So please don't forget about people while pursuing your career. And that's my message for today. People are awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I totally agree. Thanks a lot. So next, thanks a lot, Roman. The next guest is Peter Szel from Green Fox Academy. Hi.
Hi,
Peter.
everyone. Thank you for having me here. Yes, my name is Peter. I'm from Hungary, and I'm a mentor at Green Fox Academy, which is Hungary's first super intense boot camp. It was founded in 2015, and we had the vision to provide career change opportunities for people who don't really like their current career or just want to change their life. And so in 2018, we also launched our second office in Prague. So we are now in Czechia and in Hungary as well. And we are not just helping them to become junior software developers, we also provide them help to find a inspiring new workplace. Since we started, we helped over 600 people to find a new career in IT, and we also worked with over 90 companies. And we are not just a boot camp, but we also a training center. We help companies with their digital transformation. For example, we have partners in China, and we do in-house trainings for them as well. And during the COVID lockdown, our situation wasn't super difficult because our materials were already online, so we could immediately transition to online education. But we knew that not everyone was so fortunate, and a lot of people lost their jobs, and their life became much more difficult. So we figured we should do something for the community. So we launched the so-called stay-at-home coding camp, which is a completely free 3-week-long coding camp where they were able to start learning programming and try and see if this is something they would be interested in. And of course, later they can join one of the boot camps, and a few of them already joined one of our courses. All in all, the stay-at-home coding camp was available for over 8,000 participants. So it was a huge training camp. Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks a lot, Peter. Next, we have Piers, Jonota, and Richard Parayno from the Philippines.
Hello. Hi, Piers here. Unfortunately, my co-community lead, Richard, wasn't able to join over, but I'm not sure if he's one of the Richards in the attendees here in the meetup. By the way, hi, I'm Piers. I'm one of the community leads of the Philippine Web Designers Organization, or previously known as PWDO, but now we call it Puedo, coming from the Spanish word poder, meaning to be able to. So us, the Philippine Web Designers Organization, so we are a not-for-profit volunteer group aiming to uplift the local web design community in terms of designs and crafting interfaces for the web. So we do this by empowering students and professionals, as well as hobbyists from there, with interdisciplinary learning in different aspects of design and development. So from there, we hold events. Currently, we've held almost 100 events from now, coming in the forms of conferences. We have our main conference called the Form, Function, and Class Conference, where we've had speakers like Brad Frost and Smashing Magazine. So we also have our student version for that, which we call JFFC or Junior Form Function in Class. And our other meetups include meetups, charity hackathons, coding challenges, mainly Code in the Dark, if you're all familiar with that, and our recent event, which arose during the time of COVID, which we call Remote FFC, which are remote meetups for all. In the time of COVID, we've held, as mentioned, remote form function in class, and we entitled our first event for that Enhanced Work from Home, so that more people who suddenly transitioned from working through offices into working by staying at homes or in their remote areas to learn more about the tips and tricks on how to transition into that. And while we were at that event, so we partnered with User Experience Philippines, another tech community here in the Philippines. We've also figured why not bring up a donation drive while we were streaming. So it's somewhat similar to those who are streaming and then you could donate over. But in this case, we've transitioned that into instead of gaining money for us to fund our events, we'd rather put it into a specific charity for us to help frontliners in the country. So these are the doctors, the main frontliners, those who still have jobs even the time of COVID, by raising money and donating for them to feed them. So also lately with the recent different issues that are happening in the country, all the more that we have to consider having a code of conduct. So it's something that I wish to hope to share to the tech communities out there. You could visit our website, pwdo.org/conduct. So that's our code of conduct because we believe that everyone deserves an equal treatment and fair and safe treatment once we perform our events. That's all for us. So again, I'm Pierce from the Philippine Web Designers Organization. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, you are more than welcome. I can attest to the name of your group because I'm Spanish, so I
Oh,
understand like puedo. It's a good trick. It's a good trick. I like it.
yes. Yeah, actually in the Philippines, we have a similar word called puede, which
Yeah.
means okay.
Oh, nice. So it's
Yes.
both okay and you can do it, something like that.
Yes.
Very nice, very nice. Thanks a lot, Pierce.
Thank you.
So we have now Darek from NG Poland. Hello, Darek.
Can you hear me? Can you see me?
Oh, wow. Nice background.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, first of all, thank you for this opportunity to speak to you today. It's nice to see so many familiar faces in one place, especially during this crazy time. My name is Darek Kalbarczyk. I am the organizer of Anglo Warsaw Meetup and co-organizer of NG Poland and JS Poland conferences. So this year, exceptionally, our conferences will be held in a hybrid system, so which means the user have online and offline access. The date is unchanged, so 19 and 20 of November. And when it comes to meetups, during the COVID-19, we met online once a week. So tomorrow, for example, we have a JavaScript meetup with Natalia Vendito and Kirill Cherkastin. And next week is our last Anglo Warsaw meetup before the vacation. And it's a grand final meetup. Okay, so thank you so much one more time and see you online and offline.
Yeah, thanks a lot for joining. I mean, I want to be where you are. That's a nice background. My God. All right. I mean, me being in the UK, that's completely the opposite that I can see from my window.
Yeah.
Very good. Thanks,
Thank
Darek.
you so much.
We have now Jos Gerards from Vue.js in the Netherlands. Hi,
Hey.
Jos.
Hey, Jared, how are you doing?
All good, all good. You can see.
Yeah, very well.
Easy.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much for hosting me, and thank you very much to ReactiveCon for organizing this. It's an honor to be here again. I visited ReactiveCon, I think, the first time in 2017, and that was back then.
Yeah, we met there as well.
Yeah, that was back then in Bratislava, and the year after they moved to Prague. So it's amazing to see the progression and see the progression they have made. It was really cool. I think both editions have been really amazing. Couldn't make it last year, but hopefully next year again. But hello everyone, my name is Jos Gerards. I'm from the Frontend Love conference organization. We stem from actually community background. We started organizing frontend developer communities, meetups in 2015 already. And at a certain point they grew so big that we got the question if we didn't want to do conferences. And that's when we started to do Frontend Love conferences. You might have heard of them. We organized Frontend Love and Vue.js Amsterdam. And next to that, we also organize AngularNL and React Live. For this summer, we have planned our virtual conferences. AngularNL on the 24th of July, Frontend Love on the 20th and the 21st of August, Vue.js Amsterdam on the 13th and 14th of August, and React Live on the 28th of August. We also did virtual meetups straight away, actually, when COVID kicked off, because we wanted to work on community gathering, of course, especially in a time that this wasn't possible in person. We hope to gather the community in this way, as other organizers also have said. We still do them. You can usually watch them via our YouTube channel. I can share that later in our chat. As for COVID, we have seen a lot of great initiatives. I think it's really nice that the only point I wanted to make actually was that it's really nice to see that humanity stepped its way up into the digital era. And I think we've seen amazing things happen. And I think it's a shame that we needed COVID, which is a horrible thing, to push a lot of these ideas through. The internet has really been thriving over the past 3 months with good causes where people do groceries for each other, they cook for each other, entrepreneurs that do like online yoga sessions, beer brewers that start making hand sanitizers, the craziest things, JavaScript being used to track COVID-19. And for us personally, we have decided to make donations from the virtual conferences for whatever we can towards COVID-19 response fund from the WHO and to the Black Lives Matter movement, of course, which is a horrible thing, and we wish everybody the best. But all I wanted to say, like, amazing things have also been happening lately online, and I hope we can continue doing so when everything goes back to normal. So thank you very much for hosting me, and I hope to see everybody soon.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. Thanks, Jos.
Thanks.
Next, we have Zara Kanaan from Hackages, also from the Netherlands.
Yes, from the Netherlands.
Hi, Zara.
Well, hi, Jared. Hi, everyone. Hope you're doing well. I'll just quickly introduce myself, give a little bit of information. So I'd just like to say thank you so much for Sarah and Christina for inviting me and for organizing this community event. I'm Zara. I'm a digital marketer, and now I'm starting to take on growth marketing aspect of Hackages. And basically, Hackages is an IT development company, and we focus on providing education for every single one of our community members, no matter what level they are. So our founder began organizing free coding meetups back in like ages ago, like 2015, and in his free time as a full stack developer. From then on, he went around the biggest cities in Europe, building communities with developers who are focused on like a growth mindset and want to expand their skill set. So from that point on, our Meetup community is one of the liveliest of its kind, boasting over 8,000 JavaScript lab members in cities like Dublin, Luxembourg, Paris, Brussels, London, Amsterdam. So if you're ever in one of those cities and want to hack with us, feel welcome to. We still host those free events in those cities called hack jams, where you can come to hack, build an app, make some friends. Yeah, so apart from that, we offer training sessions for our fellow developers. If any of you are interested in React or GraphQL or React Native and you don't know how it works and you need some help, we offer training sessions for developers of all levels to get the skills you need to transform your way of working. And during the pandemic, we traded our offline hack jams to online webinars. Actually, Uri was one of the guests that we had on our show. So for our community, we had weekly live webinar sessions to hack for an hour during your lunch break. And if you want to check those out, our YouTube channel is Hackages Learning. That's our channel name, and you can find all of the saved webinars on there. And if you want to keep up with us and our news, everything is at Hackages. So our Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and just I'm the head of that account, so just send me a message. Well, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the evening, and yeah, hope you have fun. Hope to hear from you soon as well.
Very good, thanks. Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks.
We have just two more guests on this lightning talk. So we have Annie Volkova from Peter.js. Hi, Annie.
Hi, everyone. Thanks a lot for the invitation. My name is Annie, and I'm one of organizers of a JavaScript community in St. Petersburg, Russia. The name of our community is Peter.js. Peter is a nickname of St. Petersburg, used by close friends. So Peter plus Jess is Peter.js. Peter.js was founded in 2015, and we have been making monthly meetups since then without interruptions. We organized a conference called Peter.js Conf in September 2019. 11 speakers and more than 500 developers took part in the conference. And more importantly, the tickets were free for all the guests. And we also made a few code and learn events, which allowed participants to get started or go further with Node.js core contributions. The Node.js core team members helped them to make their first or second or even third commits to the Node.js core. Due to the current situation, we have been making online-only events since March 2020. Thanks for hosting me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you. Thanks a lot. And now we have our last guest. It's Tudor Barbu from Barcelona.js in Spain. Hello, Tudor.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Tudor. I live in sunny Barcelona. I am actually from Romania. So I can say hola a todos, but I'm what the locals may call a giri, so a foreigner that kind of, goes around speaking English and eats paella for breakfast. And I am one of the organizers of Barcelona.js. I am here to speak on behalf of our meetup. Barcelona.js started in 2014, so 6 years ago. It's completely run by volunteers. I am part of the so-called third generation. So every couple of years, every 2-3 years, a new batch of people took over the meetup. Over the years, it grew from, I remember we were like 20 people meeting in a bar. And just before the pandemic, we had our largest event, which was a massive event with 240 live attendees, which is something like a conference, a small conference, so to speak. And our events are always free. We collaborate with local companies that provide us with a venue, refreshments, and so on. And for COVID, unfortunately, we didn't do anything. We were the guys that just went under for a bit. Now we're gonna try to come back in force. We will be organizing our first online meetup this month. So if you're interested in attending, please, the meetups are in English. Please follow us on Twitter on BCNJS. And we're always looking for speakers. So given the fact that we're gonna have a couple of meetups online, and if you're interested to share something with the community here in Barcelona, please sign up. We have a GitHub account where you can open an issue with your talk. We're more than happy to hear from you. And yeah, well, hola a todos.
Thanks, Tudor. I think I need to correct you because I'm from Barcelona, and the pronunciation is Giri. Giri.
Thank you.
But it's not a bad thing. We say it friendly, of course. And yeah, obviously we also eat paella for breakfast. I mean, this is a this is a very Spanish thing. It's a little bit heavy though. Well, thanks, Tudor. You were the last guest, and I want to see if there are any questions. Let me check that. So I guess they should appear here. One thing, while you are asking any questions to our previous guests, if you have any, I'm gonna ask one myself, and this was to one of the meetups in the Philippines, which they mentioned that there were like some coding in the dark, I think was the term used, coding in the dark. And he said, I think that was Piers, said that this is some kind of session that you organize, and I literally have no idea what you mean by coding in the dark. Like coding in the dark is like coding without docs, or how is that?
All right. So coding, well, it's actually called Code in the Dark, and it's think of it as like a trademark event or like an event you quote unquote franchise with the organizing group. So usually when we organize Code in the Dark, we usually partner with one of the members in the panel as well. We partnered, us, the Philippine Web Designers Organization, partnered with Sam of Manila CSS when we organized. So far, we've organized 2 or 3 already, Sam, of Code in the Dark, and we also had 3, right? Yes. And in essence, Code in the Dark is it's a 15-minute challenge wherein a design will be provided to the participants, and then they have to code it without seeing the output, all straight in 15 minutes. So they will be provided with this design, and then they have to code it without seeing the output, all in 15 minute. So essentially, it's in the dark, but the setting of the event, when we still did it in an actual event setup, we also place it in the dark to have the party vibes.
I see. Very good idea. Very good idea. Actually, I love this kind of different ideas coming from the community. So thanks a lot for the explanation.
No problem.
All right. So we are now ready to get into the main talk today, and I want Uri to join the call. So Uri, are you around?
Hello. Hi. Can you see me and hear me?
Yes. Hello. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Gerard? Good to see you.
Yeah, I'm good. I mean, it's been a while since we talked, but I really like the talks that you do, and of course, I'm also a big fan of GraphQL, so I'm very happy for you to be doing this talk today. So yeah, are you ready? You wanna go for
I
it?
think so. I mean, last time we met, I think we met in India doing a party somewhere. So
Yes,
I think I'm ready.
GraphQL India. Yeah, awesome event.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm ready. And yeah, so should I start?
Yeah, let's start.
Okay. So thanks, thanks Gerard, and thanks everyone for organizing this this event and inviting me. My name is Uri, and I'll talk today about GraphQL and also some of the let's say some new tools that we developed around GraphQL that might help you if you're already using GraphQL, but also if you are not using GraphQL yet and you want to start in a faster way. So let me see if I can share my screen. And someone let me know if you can see my screen or not.
Yes, it's showing.
Yeah, okay, good. So my name is Uri, and I'm a founder of a group that's called The Guild. We're a group that does a lot of GraphQL open source. We develop a lot of libraries around the ecosystem. I'll go through a bit of them. And mostly we like to hear from you. So the way we build those things is that we work with a lot of different companies, usually large companies, but also we work with a lot of smaller companies just for free to help them get on board on GraphQL, and they help us understand their pain points and everything. So what is most important for me in this talk is for you to feel free to ask questions, and also feel free to reach out. Even if you think it's just a small dumb question or whatever, just reach out to us. We're available and in all the channels like Twitter, GitHub, or even you can go to our website and there's like a small chat there. You can just start chatting around with us. People are always surprised that we're answering. So yeah. So if you do use GraphQL, you probably are using one of our libraries. One of the most popular ones is GraphQL Code Generator that helps you generate things from GraphQL, from your GraphQL schema and your operations. GraphQL Inspector that helps you make sure that you're not making any breaking changes and validate changes before you go to production. GraphQL CLI that makes it much easier for you to start. You can start with just like modeling your schema and you can generate a whole app that you can just start working with. And a lot of the regular workflows are already built in. And GraphQL modules, which helps you, let's say if you're using a big team and you want to basically modularize parts of the schema for each team, then you can use this tool to make sure there's a proper separation. And one of the latest libraries that we took over is GraphQL Tools. It's one of the most popular libraries in the ecosystem. And it was unmaintained for a couple of years, but Apollo were generous enough and they just handed this over to us. And in the recent months, we basically completely rebuilt the library, added tons of new things, released 2 major versions, and completely rewrote schema stitching. So if you heard schema stitching was deprecated or something like that, you should check it out again. And those are just small parts and examples of all the libraries that we build. And like I said, the reason we build those libraries is because we work with different clients and we work with different companies, and we think GraphQL brings a lot of new opportunities to make your stack much nicer and more productive to work with, and also more performant. But instead of you needing to buy into this huge platform or anything like that, we decided to put it up as a lot of small packages that you can gradually, use for specific use case and slowly get yourself into the platform where you see fit. And everything is open source, so just feel free to start. But today I'm gonna give you a bit of background, but then talk about a library that is a bit newer, one of our newest libraries that's called GraphQL Mesh, which is very exciting for us. But before that, let me give some short introduction about GraphQL. So what is GraphQL? GraphQL is a query language and a schema. So basically, you can start by describing a schema that describes data. In our case here, we describe a project that has a name and a tagline and contributors. That data that we describe can be any data. So it doesn't need to be a database or a graph database or an API. It can be anything, and even different sources completely. So that schema can describe any data, and just by describing that schema in a certain way and writing your code in a certain way, you can now query that schema. So you can query for what you want, in that case, a specific project and just the project tagline, and you'll get back just what you need back. It's a predictable result. And that's a very powerful thing. So let's see how it actually works. So let's say we have like a server, an existing server, an existing infrastructure that we even can control maybe. But we want to expose an API for our clients. So we can just describe a user type and a message type. Now, just by describing those, basically we get this magical GraphQL engine that now the client can query for, let's say, just a specific user and its name. So when the client query for this name, GraphQL itself will go in, fetch the user, then fetch the name. Maybe the name comes from the same source, but maybe it comes from a different place. But then the client will get back one response with exactly what they expect. Now, if the client wants more, it wants a user's name and the messages of that user, then again, the client will send one request, but then the GraphQL server will get the user. In parallel, we'll get the name and the messages. And then for each message, it will get the content. Now, maybe the content comes from a completely different source, like a third-party API or WordPress or something like that. The client doesn't care. The client will get exactly what they need in one single response. So we get performance benefits, but we also get like much nicer code and much less operations that we need to do. Now, the way we define those things is basically each field. So let's say the user's name, we basically tell GraphQL how to fetch it. And that fetching, it's a function that's called resolver in the GraphQL language. And those resolvers are basically very defined functions. So we know what we're going to get, and then those functions can do whatever, like do some processing or call the server, and we know that this function needs to return a string. Now, just by defining those small tasks that can be easily defined and easily also managed between different programmers, like you can give different teams different tasks like that. Now, what you're going to see in that slide is basically what GraphQL does automatically. So everything you're going to see in that slide, what I want you to think about while I'm going through that slide is that how are you doing this today and where? So, so just by defining that schema and defining those small boxes, now I'm sending the GraphQL engine a query and get the user and the name and the messages. Now you can see what GraphQL would do with that information. So GraphQL will bring the first box, the get the user. We'll send the ID and get back a user object. Now GraphQL will see that we want the name and the messages. So GraphQL will go in, bring the right boxes, and then execute them in parallel with the value that we had before. Now, the name is already there, so we can put it in place. But the messages, we're going to get back 3 different messages, and for each message, we want the title and the date. So now GraphQL will bring those boxes for each message, we'll run them all in parallel and put the results in the right place, and we'll get the response that we need. Everything you see here, GraphQL does automatically for you. You don't need to do that yourself. So that's cool, and I won't dive too much into GraphQL here. Like, first of all, you can ask me questions after the talk, and also I have a lot of more talks that I go more deep dive into that process itself. But the thing is, you know, what we saw here is that GraphQL, first of all, automates a lot of the work for us. And second of all, it gives us types and predictability, because in those boxes that we saw, we know what is the type that is going in, and we know what is the type that's going out. So let's say we are using TypeScript, or let's say we're not using TypeScript, but we want to start getting typings, for example, from JS docs, just by using, and even if you use just JavaScript, or even if you use other language like Java or something else, just by defining that schema, we can actually generate, using GraphQL code generator, types. So you can see here on that function below, on the pseudo function, we know already what are the inputs and the outputs, so we can automatically declare them. So we got basically 3 types without doing nothing. So that's very powerful, and a lot of people are talking about, you know, that power of GraphQL and the power that you get of basically getting typed protocol between the client and the server. So that's good. One thing that, and until everything I've said until now, that's like probably you heard in many, many other GraphQL lectures. And when we go about starting to work with big companies, you know, that's how we start. We start from the client, we slowly add GraphQL in, and we call the existing services that we called before. And we get, you know, success pretty fast there. But the thing is, like in any company, large company, if you start to be successful fast, people are starting to notice. And then they want to use those things in more and more places. Now, the thing is, what we talked here is that we got a very powerful connection between the client and the GraphQL engine. But what about all the backend stuff? We are still using the same backend calls that we used before, which is still very powerful. We got much, you know, better toolings for that as well. But what we started thinking is, can we get some of the tools that we have between the client and the server, thanks to GraphQL, and apply the same tools and the same abilities also when we call the servers, the existing servers we don't have control of. So for example, in our code here, what you saw is that, you know, in the resolver code, we know what's the input and we know that what's the output. But then let's say we need to call a backend service to get the data. We don't know the actual type of the backend data, because maybe the backend data is just a REST API. They don't have a schema, or maybe the schema is outdated or something like that. So we still have some things that we can improve. So what we thought, because this is a process that we saw happening with a lot of large companies that we work with, is this would actually help us a lot. And, you know, this would actually bring a lot of the power of GraphQL into more and more parts of the organization. So we thought, you know, so again, like we thought, how can we get some of that power in more areas? Now, the thing is, some people, we're not the only ones. A lot of people are looking at that problem and they're saying, well, maybe we can start migrating all the different services that we have in our organization also into GraphQL services, and then we can merge them all together. And that might be an interesting, you know, approach. Another approach would be to maybe build like some small proxies in front of each of those sources and write manually their GraphQL schemas for them and then merge them. And that's okay, but there's a lot of problems with that. I mean, mostly if you're in a real large company, because when you're working in a real large company, most likely is that the existing APIs are not like the existing APIs are actually those are existing teams. They're not going to just migrate to GraphQL just like that because we decided it's cool, you know. And maybe it's a lot of legacy code, and that legacy codes will never change, or they have their own tasks. So if you actually work in a large company, those solutions are probably not so feasible for you. So what we instead started saying, maybe instead of migrating everything to GraphQL, maybe we can use the existing services, but still get the power of GraphQL from them. Like, we want to have a schema, an understanding of what those services exposes, and we want to be able to query those services without changing them, without us being dependent on them understanding that GraphQL is great. Now, the thing is, they do have sometimes schema. So some of those services, maybe they just have other types of schemas, like maybe they're gRPC schemas, maybe they're SQL databases, maybe they have open APIs or Swagger definitions, or maybe they're just, they don't have any schema, but they're actually sending request and response today. So we can just take those responses and try to figure out what's the JSON schema out of those responses. So we thought maybe we can use that data and do something with it. Now, the thing is, we did something similar before. So I don't know if you heard about a library that we wrote that's called SOFA. What SOFA is doing is that it's taking your existing, let's say you build a GraphQL API. What it does, it takes your GraphQL API, introspects it, and generates a REST API for you without writing any line of code. So basically now, if you have let's say you have one team and they're using GraphQL, what you can actually do is that you can generate another open API for other teams that they are not buying into this old GraphQL thing. So now you can expose REST to them, but for you, you just maintain one server, one GraphQL server, but you can expose both GraphQL and REST. So we did something similar before, and we thought maybe this time we can do the opposite way. Maybe we can take those Swagger schemas and those gRPC schemas and other schemas, SOAP schemas. Maybe we can convert those into GraphQL, and then maybe we can take those individual schemas and merge them into one big schema. So we thought a lot, we tried a lot, and to our surprise, it worked. And this is GraphQL Mesh. So GraphQL Mesh basically takes a lot of different protocols and enough from existing services and merge them all into one big GraphQL data graph. And what we can get from this library is that we can get the best out of GraphQL. We can get the query language, the type safety, but we don't need to go about and change our existing services. We can just look at what they have and generate GraphQL out of them without them knowing about it at all. And maybe during in the protocol itself would be something else like gRPC or REST or something, but you get the GraphQL experience on the client or on the consumer. And yeah, so like I said, the sources can be anything, and they can even be queue systems like Kafka or RabbitMQ or things like that, and we convert those into GraphQL subscriptions. So let me show you like a small demo I recorded a while back. So here's, and just so you see some code, and I'll also show you another, I have another demo that is also pretty cool. So what we see here is a config file of Mesh. So in that code, what we do is, all we need to do is we define two sources. One is a CD source. It's basically an API that is public. I have no control of, but it has a Swagger schema. And the other one is weather. So it's a weather API, again, an API they have no control of, but in that case, I also have a Swagger schema, so I'm lucky. But those APIs never heard about GraphQL, and they're not gonna change for me. Like, you can think of them as, let's say, two legacy services in your current company. So here, just by defining in Mesh those two sources, you can ignore the transformations that I wrote here. We'll get to there in a second. Just by defining those two, and I'll show you even later on really the process from scratch to this point. Just by defining those two, what I get now is GraphQL API. So just by defining those two and running some code from Mesh, what you see here is that I'm getting to query the CD's API, and querying, sorry, let me go back. And I'm querying just the fields that I need. I get auto completion as well. Like, let me show you again. Like all the cool stuff that we always like think about GraphQL and everything like that, auto completion, validation, everything like that, the full documentation and the graphical experience. But I didn't write one single line of GraphQL code. And I didn't change anything of the underlying services. I just told Mesh where to call them and what's their schema. And that's all. Now that's cool. But what we actually want is we don't just want to get the cities or individually get the weather. We want to build the data graph. We want to get the weather in a city. We would theoretically want the you know, when we are now in our company, we need to go to the backend services and ask them, hey, can you add an endpoint that will bring me this and that, and we can merge them all? Now, you don't need that. You can define in Mesh how the connection works. And it's, by the way, fully typed. And there's a whole lecture I can give about that, that all those different APIs that we generated are fully typed. And you know exactly that when you write that connection, you know exactly, it will tell you inside the IDE if you make any mistake. So just by defining those two, now I can have a daily forecast field under the same API. And I can query the daily forecast in Tel Aviv. And again, this is from two APIs that I have no control of, and I can't change them at all. Now, let me show you another cool demo that I recorded before. So I might gonna skip here a bit. I'm gonna do a bit faster, but what you see here is Hazura. Hazura is a famous open source solution in the ecosystem. It's basically, you get, let's say if you have a Postgres database, you automatically get a GraphQL API. The thing is, you get a GraphQL API just from your database. What I'm going to show you here is that I'm going to show you from scratch, from nothing, from an empty folder, I can create a full GraphQL API just by looking at docs of an API that doesn't even have a schema. So let's look at it. I'm creating an empty folder, and I'm just in it, doing yarn in it, just to initialize the project. Now, just by initializing the project, I'm going to install GraphQL Mesh and the JSON schema handler of GraphQL Mesh. Now I'm going to look at the API that I'm going to query. This is the Open Breweries DB. So it has basically breweries like, you know, beer places and whiskey places all around the world. Now, it doesn't have a schema. It just have a docs website. But I still want to query them, and I have no control over them, of course. And they don't have any GraphQL API whatsoever. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just paste in sample JSONs, sample inputs and sample outputs of how the responses look like. So this is like a sample response, and this is a sample inputs. I just pasted it in from the docs again, but you can take it from your own logs or something like that. That's all. Now let's declare Mesh. So all I need to tell Mesh is I need to tell Mesh, look, I have one source. The name is Open Breweries. And what I'm going to tell them is I'm going to say, hey, you need to use the JSON schema handler. This is the URL where you're going to call, and those are the sample inputs and outputs. Now, just by doing that, what you're going to see is that now I can just run a script. You can see mesh serve. So just by doing mesh serve, now I have a GraphQL API, a GraphQL gateway into any service that I want. That's all. Everything you saw here is all you need. Look at all the documentation that you see. You can start querying everything. You basically created a gateway in 30 seconds. So that's GraphQL Mesh, and that's how powerful it is. I can just show you the query. I'll skip later the Hazura part. Like the rest part of the video is how you connect this API to the Hazura API into one graph, but I don't think you need to see it. And if you want to see that, you can watch my talk from the Hazura Conf this year, demonstrating the whole thing. But the important part is that that's all you need in order to declare a GraphQL gateway. You don't even need to write GraphQL. Let me go back to the slides and finish this talk. So the sources that we work with, like I showed you OpenAPI and Swagger, and I showed you can just generate it from JSON schema that comes from just the data that's already there. But you can work with gRPC, with SOAP, with other GraphQL services, with SQL data. And by the way, also OData. What we've done with OData is we took the Microsoft graph. It's a OData API of all the Microsoft products, and we generated a GraphQL API in a minute. And it works, and you can try it out on our website. And they themselves tried to have a project where they manually created the GraphQL API for that API 2 years ago, and they failed. It didn't succeed. So that just shows you how powerful this thing is. Now, just by trying to solve this very small problem, we basically created here a very powerful gateway that you can just start using today. And a lot of people from the community started catching up on it and building a lot of cool stuff with it. Like, you can also reach out to us later and I can show you more things that people build. But the cool thing about it as well is that you can run it anywhere. Like, it can be a gateway and it can be this big gateway that you use, but you can also generate just an SDK. And you can use that SDK on your client, on a machine learning service, on another service. It's a completely distributed mechanism. You don't need to have a central point of failure or anything like that. This powerful ability can run anywhere. And more than that, people from the community actually saw that 30 seconds of video that I showed you before and said, nah, that's too much. So what they've done is that they created a Docker image for Mesh that has everything configured. All you need to input into that Docker, container is the mesh configuration that I showed you, and you just run it, and you get a GraphQL Mesh gateway out of the box. So that's really, really cool. Now, just to finish up, I think this is just the start. Like, you saw that I queried for a weather API that I didn't have a control of. The same thing we can do for any bank API that exists out there, even if the bank never heard about GraphQL. But then we can even connect the weather and the bank, and we can start offering new APIs of the weather in the branches of a bank. And this could be completely public and completely open source. So now, basically, all of us can start creating new data modules and new data module in a distributed data graph, and basically expose all the information on the internet for everyone to consume for free, even if that information is not exposed into GraphQL at all. So that's the basic path of where we're going with GraphQL Mesh, and we already have tons of public APIs on our website, so you can just go to the website and start playing around. So that's all for me. I'm mostly very excited to hear about your questions. And you can go to graphqlmesh.com, or you can just ping us on our website, on the Guild's website, on the Mesh websites, on everywhere. And we really want to help. You can just talk with us for free, openly, on our Discord forum. Just reach out. We want to see what you're going to do with this thing. So thank you very much, and I'm looking forward for your questions.
All right.
Can you still see me and hear me?
Yes, yes. Sorry,
Okay.
I had some issues with my Wi-Fi. The thing is, because I recently changed house. I'm in a new house. I have no broadband, and I need to use my phone. So I'm having a hotspot. So this Zoom call is running on my phone,
Oh
and
my
just
God.
run out
Oh
of
my God.
batteries in the middle of the talk. And I was trying to to join a public Wi-Fi on another computer, but now I have 5%. So I'm going to run the rest in this 5% of batteries.
Okay, let's hold all our fingers to make sure
Yeah,
it works.
let's see. But yeah, I think we had like some questions, and I mean, there's a lot of people that can use what you have shown, and it's quite, you are quite right. This is not something easy to come by, this solution, and there must be you know, few companies already looking at it and saying like, okay, we want this. How can we get it? How can we get it? But I saw there's some question. Let me see if I can recover it from the chat. I think they were saying, I guess they are like new to GraphQL, and they were referring to you know, looking at the queries that they look very much like a JSON. And we're thinking like, okay, so what's the relation between, you know, the query syntax and JSON? Is that something
interesting
that has any relation, or it's just that it looks like JSON? I mean, if you look at the query and also the response, so if you want to expand on that for some, you know, for someone that is starting to use well.
Yeah, that's a good question. So JSON, there's two things JSON here. I'm sure that the question refers to JSON itself as like the data that goes between the client and the server, let's say, or the consumer and the provider. And there's JSON schema, which basically is a format that makes sure that your data that you send is in a certain format. So what we in GraphQL, you can actually send any data over the wire, and the most common thing is actually to send JSON. So when you saw I'm sending a request, a query in the GraphQL language, what I'm going to get back is JSON. But unlike just sending JSON response, let's say with REST API, because I'm sending a query, I can decide what I'm going to get back. So if you use JSON schema before, for example, you can think about it as the client can query what parts of JSON schema they need. And that's a very powerful ability also for the client to get just the things that they need and be more efficient. But also on the server, when you know what your clients want, you can react in a much better way, and you can respond in a much more efficient way. So yeah, if you looked at JSON and JSON schema, I think it will be really cool for you to try GraphQL. And actually with GraphQL Mesh, you can take, let's say you have a JSON schema right now, you can take your existing JSON schema and with GraphQL Mesh, generate a GraphQL schema from it. So then you don't need to change your existing server, but you can start querying GraphQL and you can start, you know, hacking around and see what's the difference. And you can get some of the benefits without doing a lot of work and without learning too much, just automatically migrating. So yeah, good question.
Cool. Thanks for answering that. And we have another question here. So let me read it out for everyone. So does Mesh provide subscriptions out of the box? If so, what is the transport in that case?
Oh, that's a good question. So first of all, the idea of Mesh is that we take your existing sources. So when you say subscriptions out of the box, what GraphQL subscriptions is basically a sophisticated pub/sub mechanism. So it needs an event system to listen to. And then every time there's an event, it will ask for a certain query together with the event. That's the difference between, let's say, a regular pub/sub and GraphQL subscriptions. So that if you would just build GraphQL subscriptions by hand, then you would just need to listen to some event. Now, the question is, what kind of events do you have today that are existing already? So let's say if you already have an event system, let's say you have a Kafka mechanism, or you just listen to triggers from the database or anything like that, with GraphQL Mesh, you can take those existing systems and you can basically create GraphQL Mesh out of them. GraphQL Mesh, what it will do, for the consumer, it would look like GraphQL subscriptions, but over the wire, it will be as it was before. So over the wire, if you, let's say the message was running through, let's say the message was running through Kafka, then you would just listen through Kafka and get the message. Now, the difference with Kafka is that now with GraphQL subscriptions, you can also get a query. So let's say you're listening to a Kafka event, but then you want to query also some data from that event, but also other data from other sources like your SQL database or another API. Now GraphQL Mesh will abstract that for you. So it will fire the Kafka stream into the consumer, whatever that consumer is. It might be a gateway, it might be another client. And then GraphQL Mesh will call the database or will call the other REST service, let's say, get the data and present you the results. Now, for you as the consumer of GraphQL Mesh, this is all abstracted away from you. You just subscribe to a certain event and you get the full response every time that event happens. Everything else is taken care of by GraphQL Mesh for you. So in that context, basically, GraphQL Mesh works on your existing sources. That's the idea of GraphQL Mesh. You can also build your own GraphQL subscription mechanisms. And then, for example, between the client and the server, and then if you build that, you have your own choice of the transport. The transport can be WebSockets, can be MQTT. Basically, the GraphQL subscription spec doesn't care whatever transport you're using. You can use whatever transport you want. It's a good question.
Cool. We have another one, and this is also quite interesting. So let me just speak it out. How can you provide more extensive validations on models, like, for example, keeping or expressing like a maximum characters for a string? Like he's mentioning, or she's mentioning 200 characters. So imagine we have a field and we want to express that restraint on that.
That's another good question. So GraphQL by default has certain types of scalars. So then if I define that the return value of each field, that each field is of a type, let's say int, then it will have to be an integer. It won't be able to be either like a float, or it couldn't be a string. So those are the basic things. But in GraphQL, you can actually define custom scalars. And we have, if you Google GraphQL scalars, we are actually maintaining the NPM library GraphQL scalars, which has a lot of other different custom scalars that we already created for you. For example, a bank IBAN number, an email address, a URL, all kinds of things like that, that it will have has the validation for you. If you have a custom scalar that is even different from that, you can develop your own scalars, but it's worth looking at the GraphQL scalars library just to see how it's done. And then you can just, configure your own new custom scalars to do whatever validation you want.
Very good. And there's another question. There's some questions popping out as we talk. Yeah. And yeah, so this one is, okay, is there any like basic, like introductory course that you can recommend on, GraphQL, and also, okay, so for someone that just started to do GraphQL and has been doing JavaScript and MERN stack? But I guess it's general to GraphQL.
Yeah, so I think, first of all, GraphQL.org is actually a very, very nice website, and I would actually start there. We are also working now on making the website, even a bit better, but I think it's a good start. So I would really recommend GraphQL.org. I also write it here. but also what we've built was, we built a tutorial that is like, it's called the WhatsApp clone. We basically built the WhatsApp app from scratch, including the front end and the back end. And it uses GraphQL and the database and, you know, React on the front end and things like that. But there's also an Angular version. So I would also recommend that. So I'll paste here a link to that tutorial. And also in that tutorial, if you have issues or something like that, you can just ask us and we can improve the tutorial. So
yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Also, thanks for sharing that. And I think we have the last question, if none other questions pop up. So does Mesh provide filters or queries on parent elements using child properties in a predicate? For example, all users that contain a message with the word hi.
Good question. So not out of the box, but what we build in Mesh is that you have custom transforms throughout the way, meaning that means that, first of all, let's say if you have some kind of schema, doesn't matter, even if it's a custom schema that you invented in your company, that then gives you those definitions, you can write your own transforms that will generate a GraphQL schema with that information of what you want to validate, that custom thing. You can add it, let's say, as annotations on the schema or something like that. But then we also provide transforms when the requests are passing. So you can also then build a custom transforms that look at the schema that has been generated, look at the rules and validate those as well. I'm not sure if it's answering exactly your question. If not, you can write it here, and I can try again, or you can write it on the repo and we can look at it. But the basic idea is that every step of the way is custom, because what we've saw is that really in a lot of large companies, like, it's not like you can get one transform or one converter to work for everyone. There's so many custom rules and there's so many custom protocols. So we deliberately made it like very customizable. It will be cool to look at your use case and see if we can fit it in.
Okay, so I did share, you know, the links that you shared before. You shared to the panelists, so I shared to the attendees just quickly.
Okay.
So they have the links now. And I think there's another question this time from Adamos, from the, you know, part of the panelist, and he's asking if there are any plans to have tutorial using Blazor.
Good question. We currently don't work with Blazor, but if you do work with that, we can actually collaborate and help you with that. We do work with Microsoft, by the way, so would be interesting to look at it. So if you are interested in that and you want to play around and you need some help, then we can definitely help. By the way, we in the graphical code generator, for example, generates code like .NET code, both for the backend and the front end. So we can play around. And I used to be a .NET developer a couple of years ago, so I didn't try Blazor yet. So it would be cool to actually
yeah, that's
together.
awesome. I think that's the last question. So maybe we can get it a little bit out of the Q&A, and I'm going to start my own Q&A. So my own Q&A is mostly interested in how did you spend, you know, the time that we were mostly at home. Like, you did anything different? Like, you changed your routine, maybe use that time to learn something new. I know that many people did like something different. Myself, I started running because I wanted to get out of the house, and I'm just wondering, what did you do? You did anything different, or how was this time for you?
So in the guild, we all work remotely, so it wasn't so different. But it was a bit. So one thing that I've done is I started doing more sports at home, which was really fun. But then actually I followed you and your runnings. Like you posted every day like crazy runs, and I was like, okay, I need to start running again. So you actually inspired me to start running again, and I started like basically a month and a half ago to start running again. Not as much as you, but I'm working on it.
Yeah, no.
So thanks for inspiring me.
Oh yeah, no, I don't recommend that actually. That's a little bit too much. But the thing is, I was thinking, I don't want to be at home. I mean, as you do travel a lot, and you are being put into your house, and you can. I mean, we didn't know how long it would take, so I wanted to do something outside of the house. So that was mainly the goal. But then, of course, I got a little bit over myself, and then did something that I wasn't sure. But yeah, no, I don't recommend that. Running every day for 100 days is just too much. But yeah, just going for a run like a couple of times a week, I think it's perfect. I think anyone can enjoy that. Even a walk doesn't need to be a run. But yeah, well, I think we covered everything. I think we are on time as well. That was an amazing talk. I would love to have the type of slides that you share. I mean, how long did it take you to do these slides? My God, these are very beautiful slides. And there's only one thing I want to mention, and is the next Reactive online meetup, and that's going to be just in few days. So all of you that are joining us today and that have enjoyed the talk from Uri, we are going to have another meetup. So just check the details out. You can go to Twitter, or you can go to any of the channels there. And of course, Uri, you are more than welcome to join the next online meetup. And yeah, well, see you all soon. And yeah, have fun the rest of the evening.
Thank you very much for having me. Bye, everyone.
Yeah,
and keep in touch.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so that's all. Thanks everyone for joining us. Thank you for joining the Lightning Talks at the beginning. It was really good to know what you were doing these last few months to keep the communities going. Thanks again. Bye everyone.